Hello, everybody. Sorry. Was doing some stuff. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Get rid of this. Hello. Laura, Jose, Laura, Jeremiah, Aaron, Clara, Garpu, Kia. Hello, friend. Silver. Hello, everybody. I did see the news that Andrew got arrested. Hallelujah. Some good news to at least somewhat counter the idea that we'll be invading friggin' Iran. Just so tired. Now RDH, I mean, it's not going to happen. We already know it's not going to happen, Linda. Hey, Summer. May England doing the right thing be the little rock that brings down the dam here? I wish. Fortunately, I don't see that. I hope you're right, though. I hope you're right. Did my 5:30 a.m. snow shoveling workout, got my second cup of coffee. Let's do this. Heck yeah. I know MAGA is all, what about Clinton? If he's guilty, he should face the music. Truth. Of course, we're invading Iran. Israel needs more welfare money. But you know what, guys? We're saving so much money in this country. I don't know what you're talking about. Saving so much. Cup number 3. There you go. There you go. Mm-hmm. How was the rest of everyone's day yesterday? Morning, Maureen. I'm feeling a little down this morning. We'll be okay. But I am feeling a little bit down this morning. I'm feeling the frustration of people that rage bait getting quote unquote successful. Washing dishes, laundry, and cleaning the kitchen, so I'll be quiet and chat for a bit, but I'm here. All right, Kia. Good morning, Missy. .63 and cloudy, and I have the windows open, even the one over the sink. Nice. Oh, I know. And I appreciate you guys more than you possibly could know. it's just frustrating when you see people that you know do rage baiting slash debates with MAGA that aren't going to go anywhere other than make people feel like they've done something, get to like 1 million followers. And I've been stuck where I am for a long, long time. Like in terms of growth, especially on TikTok, it's been practically non-existent. Oh, I understand, but also paying the bills is necessary. Went to Ash Wednesday services, hadn't been to that particular church in years, and was reminded why. I also accidentally parked in a clergy spot, so take that. I know, Summer. It's why I keep doing it. Just every once in a while. The internet also really tries to convince you that you need to grow really fast. And I know I don't want to grow really, like I don't want to be like a super fast national sensation or anything crazy like that. I just want to pay my bills and be able to pay other people to help do what I'm doing. That's all I'm looking for, really. But I hear you. I know. And I, like I said, I'm really okay. I'm just being honest with you guys how I'm feeling today. You're a mama hen. It's all good. I understand. I appreciate the fact that you guys care enough to want to help. I really do. I really do. I just wish there was an easier answer than keep doing what you're doing. In this case, there just isn't. Unfortunately. Yep. No, I hear you. We're good. Everything's good. Really, everything is good. I know people that are dealing with about 1 trillion times worse than what I'm dealing with. We can pay our bills as a whole. I know people that are doing things like asking their landlords to give them more time to pay their rent because they can't find a job. Do I need to come kick you in the shin? Would that make you feel better? No. Can confirm it wouldn't make me feel better. I appreciate the offer, though. Pickles? Honestly, I think what I need most is to hear that some of these amazing people I'm interviewing get through the primaries. I think that will help me a lot, if I'm being honest. I think that's one of the things that will help me a lot is have I heard from her? Yep, she's still trying to find a job. Unfortunately. It's not getting much better for her, unfortunately. Not yet, at least. She's applying, trying to find work. Ba-ba-ba. Has anyone seen any MAGA talking about this whole Iran thing? Is it pretty much just the same stuff that we expect to hear from them? Being like, we need to do this. Only people I've seen talking about it are people on the progressive side. So far. I don't think they realize it's happening. Oh, I understand. But it's also sometimes good to know what kind of arguments are going to come our way. I haven't. It's not being talked about very much, which is interesting. I mean, I guess it's not interesting. It's makes sense. Just like with the Epstein files, they have to be they have to live in a level of cognitive dissonance because the people they voted for ran on these things and they can't admit that they were wrong for voting for this administration in the first place. Are they actually I mean, right now they haven't yet, but they are definitely posturing and saying things very similarly to when they did other actions. So is it a guarantee? No, nothing's a guarantee, but it is definitely definitely not looking good, put it that way. Not to mention we're spending tons of money to move tons of equipment over there. Like, it costs money to move all those planes over there. Gonna be a very long winter and spring. Yup. I brought it up in my family group chat. The military members knew about the situation, but none of the others seemed to realize anything was going on. And I wonder why people don't trust mainstream media right now. Hope says no to the Orange Man Andrew getting arrested. Yes, there's definitely been good news along with the bad. 100%. 100%. Moving naval warships is not cheap. Nope. Hey, Ghost, how you doing? Hey, Ash. Media's not doing their job. Too scared of retaliation. Other thing that is not getting talked about is Cuba. Yep. How Cuba is basically without power. A vast majority of Cuba is without power right now. Yep. That's been the one frustrating, like, again, I love doing what I'm doing, interviewing people, but I'm like, I don't have time to do all the other stuff that needs to get done. Like, I just don't have time to make videos that talk about everything else that's going on. I saw a video about that, and it's just, yeah. We knew Trump was going to do more and more horrible stuff the tighter the noose gets. Yep. Yep. Don't forget he asked Zelensky about not having elections when a country is at war. Well, that's the thing. Ukraine's government is set up in that way. He doesn't seem to understand that there is that provision doesn't exist in the United States. I saw an article this morning. He wants to build a base in Gaza for 5,000 troops. I wish I were surprised. The oil power supply is only powering military bases and shelters right now. Yep. I have friends in Hampton Roads who have said things are being moved around locally. Flight practices are changing, personnel being called up and placed on restricted travel, all little signs. Growing up in a military area, it's not much about what they say and so much about what they do. Yep. 350 acres. God. Plus Ukraine itself. Yes, that's also different. Ukraine itself is in the middle war. But the fact is they had elections during the Civil War. They had elections during the Civil War. Also, good morning. How are you, Ash? Filtered that this morning? Of course it did. It's in its super filter phase again. There was a period where I could talk on Lewis's live just fine, and all of a sudden, like 90% of what I say is getting filtered again. It's very frustrating. Right. That's what we were talking about, Scott. The difference is their constitution does not allow it, where ours does not say anything about that. Elections happen. Gas prices are going to go through the roof if we invade. Oil prices are already starting to go up. I think they've gone up like $5 or $6 in a day. One interesting thing that I saw in terms of some potential issues is the election for governor in California. There are so many people running on the Democrat side for governor that because of the way they do their elections, there's actually, if some don't drop out, there's actually a chance that they could dilute the numbers enough to cause two Republicans to be the people that end up running. I don't think it'll happen, but there are like 9 people running for governor on the Democrat side. It got all quiet. Mm-hmm. Texas early voting numbers are still high for the second day in a row. Nice. I haven't looked. See if we can find out what North Carolina's early voting numbers have been like. As of Tuesday, it looks like 133,000 people have voted. That's not bad. Why are oil prices rising? I have oil heat and it's so expensive because the United States is posturing to do something in Iran. Hey, Angel. Yes, Iran has already closed part of the Strait of Hormuz. Yep. Yeah, there's a bunch of posturing going on the sea. I think at this moment, he's trying to force them to agree to something. That's my guess, is what he is doing. The question is, will he go a step further? And that's what I'm worried about. I already paid $600 a month for heat and we keep it low and layered. Dang. That's insane. Tube hates me. All the comments disappeared. It's just a black box now. What? I'm not so worried about Russia. They can't hold one front, let alone two. Yeah, and they're losing their line from what I've heard. And with you, can we just change the channel already? Is the remote broken? I wish. I wish it were that simple. I wish it were that simple. Wouldn't that be nice? Russia's a joke of a country, but that's where Trump and his backers basically want to take us. Hey, Miley, how are you, friend? Probably invested somehow. Oh, almost definitely. Supposedly, according to them, on the DL, they're trying to work out some trade agreement or something with the United States, Russia. It's like, what? I don't want a trade agreement with Russia. No one should want a trade agreement with Russia right now. Prince Andrew did get arrested this morning. Yep. Hey, AJ, how are you? Willing to go back to aluminum foil on rabbit ears? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? $12 trillion trade agreement with Russia is being negotiated. According to Russia. Technically, I think the United States hasn't confirmed it, but it wouldn't surprise me. Hope you are too. I'm doing okay. Every once in a while, the weight of everything hits me. But and there were some frustrating things going on in my brain this morning. But other than that, as a whole, yeah, I'm doing good. I really am. Must be nice to see people getting held accountable in your country, right? Russia doesn't have 12 trillion to trade. Also true. Hey, Lori. Andrew News Today guarantees war. I don't know if it guarantees war, but anything that makes this administration nervous is not good for this country. That's for sure. And people being held accountable makes this administration nervous, for sure. I listened to Dumpy Pants Board of Peace meeting, had to leave for sanity purpose. I bet. Again, you look at most of the countries that are a part of this Board of Peace, they're the kind of people that don't understand peace. That literally do not do peace. The dominoes are falling. When will they fall here? Good question. Hey, Carrie. Hey, Chrissy. By the way, I don't know if I said hi. He's just boosting all their egos and telling them how great and rich they all are. True. There's a lot of people all over the e-files. Arrest them all. I don't care what party you're affiliated with. What part don't you get about that, dude? Good morning, Babia. Norway's former prime minister was charged because, yep. Well, no offense to Hawk, but he has not been extremely reliable on his future statements. I wish I could have sat at home and begged for money and spew lies and hatred. You're doing a good job right now, Blue Devil. Good morning, April. Guys, if you're over here on TikTok, please tap that nose. It really does help. The faster we can get to 10K on the tapping, the more people will join up, especially also sharing and joining the fan club or whatever the hell they call it now also helps. That's why I said with a grain of salt. Yep, I hear you. Tap the lows, but not the lips. Yes, don't tap the lips. They're fire. You don't want to get burned. I didn't make it past the music on the Board of Peace meeting. You disagree with me? Okay. Okay. You are allowed to disagree with me. Hey, Stu. Guys, I posted a clip of one of the people that I interviewed. She's running for Senate in New Hampshire, but the clip I posted is something that works for everyone. If you wouldn't mind at some point today going and not just watching it all the way through but interacting with it and sharing it, because it's the call out that we keep talking about here, which is you need to vote in the primaries. You need to help grassroots people, stuff like that. So, U.S. Senate, Scott, U.S. Senate. Gotta run. Okay. Imagine someone who's defending the E-class because they can't admit they were wrong. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The House can impeach him 100 times. It means nothing without the Senate removing him. True. Welcome back, Claire. Hey, Lewis. How are you doing, buddy? It's just wild to me the amount of cognitive dissonance that is going on. Air Force One is being repainted in Trump's preferred colors. Wait, what now? President Trump's preferred paint colors will be applied to the new plane, which will serve as Air Force One. To the new planes. They'll be painted red, white, gold, and dark blue. Hey, Meme. Hey, Dee Dee. Hey, David. Interesting. I wish I were surprised. Good day, Flamingo. He sure does love gold. I think Andrew Mountbatten has been thrown to the wolves to protect the establishment and others. I mean, they may be attempting to do that. What's his obsession with gold? Gold means money. Money means power. That's what his obsession with it is. Hey, Ghost. Hey. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everyone who is new. If I miss saying hi to you, I apologize. And no one does anything. Well, yeah, we got to put people in that are willing to do something. That's the whole point. People don't get out and vote in things like the primaries, which means incumbents get through. People don't pay attention to who's running and just vote for whoever spends the most money. That's what happens. It's huge that they actually arrested him. It is huge that they arrested him. Hi, Prairie Lady, by the way. One down, 500 to go. Yeah. Kid Rock is headlining the opening ceremonies for the World Cup. Ugh. Did you guys see that video of him and RFK Jr.? What the hell was that thing? Ah! That thing was ridiculous. What is RFK's obsession with having his shirt off but still being in jeans and doing things? Will Kid Rock bring the 3 nobodies with him? Nah. Tell them the fan club is free. Technically, it costs a penny to join. Could have been an SNL skit just over here. Relax, swimming in my jeans. There you go. Yeah, taking the cold plunge in jeans. That's actually dangerous. It's actually dangerous. All right, community people can come up. Hello.
Yeah, obviously, like everybody else, I was astounded to see Prince Andrew getting arrested this morning. And I know that it's probably about the sharing of secrets, but it's really about the Epstein files. They're all the same genesis. And the dominoes are falling. So the question is, when do they start falling here? And, you know, they released apparently about half of the documents that they have. All I can say is from what we've learned from this half, that other half ought to be unbelievable. If they're keeping that under wraps and they think this was the benign half that they released, that other half has got to have a whole lot of shit in it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Clara.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm, we've not only that the UK ambassador to the United States also has been removed of his duties, and there's an active investigation where they've raided all of his properties as well going on in the UK, and that was directly tied to the SA accusations on Epstein as well. So, and I tried looking, and maybe somebody else who has the Washington Post or is the New York Post or something had, but I couldn't get into it because I'm not a member. But they were having a list of all the people that have either been fired, resigned, or investigated in connection with the files so far. And I mean, the list is growing for all over the world. I mean, we've had a couple here, but nobody's being investigated. They just resigned due to it. And but in my humble opinion, nothing is going to change as far as in true investigations into these people until we have a completely new DOJ, period. Because too many people are being protected. So until we get a new DOJ, we're not going to have that kind of investigations.
Well, Clara, a couple of things. Number one, it's going to be 3 years before we have a new DOJ. But there are two things that can go on before that. The Democrats are going to take the House, and with it comes subpoena power. They can do their own investigation. They don't need the DOJ. Their subpoenas are just as powerful as anything that the DOJ has. And I reference you to the January 6th committee, which did a better job than the Justice Department did of investigating the crimes of Donald Trump. And secondly, and this is what's really amazing, we saw a start in New Mexico, but the states have the same authority to investigate that the federal government has, and they do have resources. I sure as hell don't know why New York State isn't all over this. There was trafficking going on in New York. I can sort of, obviously in Florida, but, you have DeSantis down there and he'll put the kibosh on that. But, states can do their own investigations, bring their own charges. These charges are both state crimes and federal crimes. So there is absolutely nothing stopping the states from bringing their own investigations. And in a few months' time, the House is going to be Democratic, and they will have subpoena power, and they will launch their own investigations.
Jose, you're right. As a country, we aren't angry enough. You're right. You are right. As a country, we are not angry enough. We've talked about the fact that there are still far too many people that don't feel that the inconvenience of standing up and speaking out is worse for them than the possible repercussions for standing up and speaking. Like they just don't they don't feel like that line has been crossed, where it's more important to stand up and speak out than it is to deal to let things keep going. And unfortunately, until we get there, it's going to be tough.
I see that user blah, 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 blah says that the January 6th committee was a fraudulent scam. Hey, thank you for your insightful comment.
I was just, I don't like to stay up very long. So I was just going to make my little PSA announcement, which is for everybody who's here, just realize that we are live over on the tube as well. We have much better I think we have much better conversations, more in-depth conversations over there. And then while you're at it, look at all of Mike's long and short form content that's over there. It's really been amazing to see the different candidates that are in the different states that are running, that he's interviewing. Makes my heart happy to see the different people that are running. And, there's other ones as well, like the one with the lady that had been detained by ICE. That was a really powerful interview, I thought. Anyways, but come join us over on the tube. We have fun over there. So, anyways, and I'm done. But thanks for having me up.
Of course. What interview? About a week and a half ago, I posted an interview I did with a young woman who was detained during her green card interview, and she talked about what it was like, what her experience was like. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was going to respond to Bertha in the comments. Bertha, you're right. It's distressing. I know other countries are taking it seriously. Most of the crimes that were committed in this country, and we don't seem to be taking it seriously enough. We don't seem to be demanding. We don't answers. We don't seem to be outraged at the stonewalling of the Department of Justice. We don't even seem to be outraged enough outside of making comical memes, which are indeed comical, about Pam Bondi and what a disgrace this person is as an attorney general.
Mm-hmm. Shell, we are going to take the House. Elections will happen. We just need people to come out and vote. That's what we need. We need people to get out and vote. In numbers that we have probably not experienced before. If it's close, it's going to be any election that is close is going to be used as an excuse to try and delay things. So we can't have it be close.
You know, good morning, everybody, by the way.
Hey.
I had this thought kind of pop in my head when I wasn't able to sleep the other day, and I've kind of been processing it. And it's almost kind of like, at this point, are we really shocked that people are not being held accountable? I mean, look what happened, and I say it multiple times, what was happening to our kids in school. And yet there's not been any kind of reform. There's not been, any kind of major anything seems to have happened to try to take care of that. So they've been showed us that they don't care about the kids. And I think if anything, it goes to show that we really need to fix our law system and change our legal system, how we do things. Because like I happened to see GT he was on a MAGA panel last night.
Nah.
They ended up dropping him.
Of course.
But the lady was like bansheeing, and this dude thought he had like a gotcha because when GT made a comment about them supporting a rapist, they were like, he wasn't ever found to have committed that. And Eugene, and he starts reading it, and he's like, not grape. And like by that point, they had already kicked him. And I'm like, but don't you realize that they actually changed the law after that? Because, and also you didn't read all of it, because it does say if the law would have said it, if it would have been what it is now, he would have been charged with rape. But the fact still, as just being found liable for SA, like just in that fact, and you still support them, is bad a freaking enough.
Well, I mean, for the record, you're quite right. He was, because it was a civil action, he was legally adjudicated as guilty of SA. And because grape is not part of the charge in the civil action. And secondly, the judge in the case himself said it should be considered grape. That's good enough for me. The judge said that.
And Ian, that's a completely false statement. I think officially on average, 23% of eligible voters vote in primaries. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people running for office that want to do things that we have been screaming about having done. And most people don't vote in the primaries. You want to get rid of PACs? You want to stop funding what's going on over in the Middle East? Then you gotta vote people through that want to stop that want to change the laws, that want to do this kind of stuff. And that happens in the primaries more than in the general election.
Getting back to your other point, Kia, am I surprised at the lack of outrage? Of course not. I mean, I've lived in the United States for the last 10 years. So have you. So have Mike. In fact, I've lived in the United States for a lot longer than 10 years, more like 69 years. And I am not at all shocked at what I've seen. I mean, folks, leaving aside the pew-pewings in schools that we do nothing about, leaving aside all the day-to-day horrors that we deal with, This is the same country that elected a convicted felon after a first term that was an absolute dumpster fire, 1.2 million people gone from COVID, and wow. So am I surprised that people aren't more upset about the Epstein files? No, not surprised at all about that. Not even remotely. And I'm not surprised that other countries are taking it far more seriously than we are.
Yep. Oh, Denzel, how does it feel having tiny D syndrome? Must hurt. It must hurt caring about like suffering from that.
Well, I get a kick out of. He says, if you only knew what you were talking about, okay, tell me where we're wrong. Tell me where we're wrong. No, instead you use a generalized statement showing your abject stupidity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't really care. And we know that. There's a whole group of people that don't actually care about facts or truth or any of that.
It was just, and I was like, now I see why I don't spend any kind of time in these spaces. Like, and then the fact, like afterwards, that they just kept talking shit, talking about he don't know what he's talking about, he don't know facts, and I'm like, do you guys not understand? Facts are facts. There's like no changing the fact of facts. Whether you support the president or not, facts are facts. Facts are facts. You don't get to change them because you think that what's happening now is good. Like somebody else came up on the panel and was like, yeah, Rubio's doing such a great job, man. He's doing a really good job. They're making me proud. And I'm just like, ugh.
Oh my gosh. Did you guys hear about Lindsey Graham? He literally had like a breakdown at some meeting with world leaders and was just like throwing F-bombs out, called the prime minister of the Netherlands, I think, or Denmark, little lady. And
if I were Lindsay, I wouldn't be talking about little lady about anything.
It was disgusting. It was disgusting. And of course, she was actually like an adult and was like, when you're done with whatever you're doing, then we can actually start having a conversation again.
God, they're gross. They're just, but her laugh though, right? Kamala had a funny laugh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her laugh.
Yeah, well, Lindsey Graham is a piece of... Devin, I don't know who you are. I don't bring up people I don't know. Sorry.
By the way, was Lindsay sober when he broke down? I assume you're talking about the Munich conference,
Yep.
right? Yeah. Was he sober this time? Unlike when he was on Fox News and he was so drunk he couldn't even speak?
Oh, no. I didn't see anything about it either way.
Me either.
Well, he's sort of falling apart anyway. He's just a sad individual. He's like a what do they call remora fish? He likes to attach himself to powerful people. First it was John McCain, then it was Donald Trump, and he admitted it. He said, "I want to have a seat at the table." Well, the only seat at any table he has is the kiddie table because President Trump treats him with abject contempt. He's gained nothing with President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with his harsh sanctions against Russia that are sitting in the Senate with 85 sponsors, and because Trump won't let it come up, it just sits there rotting. I'd like to see anything Lindsey Graham has accomplished in the Trump years at all. Anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you're right. Oh, reminder to everyone, I'll be posting about it in a little bit so please share it when you see it. Tomorrow morning, During this live, we will be interviewing Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs, who is running for Congress in Virginia's 1st District. So if you haven't watched the video on the tube where I interview her, you should. And think of things you'd like to ask her. You can put them in the chat and I'll read them and write them down, kind of a thing. But to ask. But yeah, don't forget, she's pretty amazing. Actually, a lot of the people that are running in the 1st District seem pretty. Now, I don't know if any of them are getting changed districts with the new layout, but the people running in the 1st, because I will be interviewing a 3rd one who's running in that district soon too. They're all pretty amazing people. Yes, she is.
It will be interesting to see what happens with the deep redistricting. I mean, Virginia's cutting it awfully close with this, awfully close. And it's no given. They're going to have a special election. They're going to have to win the special election. They're going to have to ram through the redistricting all in, God, they don't have much time here.
According to one of the people I talked to, there's a possibility they will they'll like change the date of the primaries to give everyone time for the people that potentially have to run in a new district.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to, I think. I don't know how else they could possibly do it.
Or only give people like a month, because I think theirs is in June, beginning of June.
And that'd be a big one. That'd be between 3 and 4 seats, and it would bring, even assuming that Florida's up against a timeline here too, because they would have to move fast and also beat back court challenges because they have a constitutionally mandated redistricting process. So they would have to somehow get around their constitution, which in Florida is not difficult to do, but you'll have legal challenges, but they're up against it. But if we do get Virginia, that'd make it just about a wash. Trump's whole gerrymandering scheme would collapse. They're not going to gain any real seats from it.
Hey, Shawnee. Promise to be on my best behavior. Look, these people are expecting hard questions. When I do my interviews, the purpose is to get their campaigns out. Like it's for visibility and name recognition. We absolutely should be asking these people hard questions. We absolutely should be holding their feet to the fire about what they stand for in difficult situations.
Is it going to be on at the regular time, Mike?
Yep. She's coming on at 10 Eastern.
Shit. Can't put it back an hour and a half or so?
No,
I have to work in the morning. It's going to be difficult for me.
Gotcha. Unfortunately not.
Will she be on for the full 2 hours? Because I may get back for the last part of it.
I mean, if people are asking questions, yeah, she knows when I go live. She hasn't told me that she can only be on for a certain amount of time, so I'm assuming if there's questions that people have to ask her and stuff is still being talked about, she will still be going, kind of a thing. So
cool.
You're pissed? It's understandable. Laughing at Tucker Carlson. Yeah. I've heard some people say that what supposedly happened to Tucker Carlson didn't actually happen, but I don't know.
What supposedly happened to Tucker Carlson? I don't follow him at all, so.
There was a report that he got like detained in that country in the Middle East that is always in the news. When they were coming in or leaving, I forget which. But leaving because they went in and interviewed Mike Huckabee and then were leaving, and supposedly it happened. Got into a small fender bender yesterday, and the first thing that happened, she was scared out of her mind. Ugh. Fender benders are never good. Is New Mexico about to do a raid on the old Epstein Ranch? Looks like they may be about to go digging for bodies. Silver asked if there's something that you'd like us to ask Elizabeth just in case. I'm sure Scott will message me if there's something that he wants to make sure is talked about.
Yeah, I'll look into it this afternoon. Sure.
I think what Phantom said, something got filtered. It says, I got into a small fender bender, and the first thing that happened,
Yep,
she was scared out of her mind. Did
Yep.
something happened in between?
probably. This app is a pain in the butt. Oh, I wonder if she thought Phantom was a cube. Yeah.
Well, I mean, New Mexico's the first shoe to drop. Where the hell are the other states here? I really don't get that. Since when does the DOJ have a monopoly on investigating this? They don't. They don't. The states have just as much authority to investigate these crimes as does the federal government. So I don't know where the hell the states have been on all this. I do know where the House of Representatives will be going in a few months. So they can delay, but I don't see how they hold this dam back. I mean, there's so many leaks in the dike right now. The water's just pouring out all over the place, and there's Pam Bondi with one finger in there, and that's just not going to hold.
The owner has already started. He's building a Christian retreat for Christian children. He was interviewed by Matt Gaetz, of all people. Oh. Yes, Orange Sky, we did. Yep. Good morning, Mim. I just for an administration that talks about waste, fraud, and abuse so much, it still boggles me how much money that we have spent on things that taxpayer money on things that just are being overlooked by so many people.
Because it was never about waste, fraud, and abuse with them. It really wasn't.
I know.
They wouldn't know about waste, fraud, and abuse anyway. Look at all the money we're giving to Ukraine. Well, we're not giving them any money, actually. But we did give $40 billion to Argentina, and we are spending another $40 billion to build concentration camps here in the United States. So there's that.
Can we follow the lead of King Charles and start arresting people? Can we? Well, yeah. We can arrest a lot of people. You just have to have people in those positions that are willing to do it. And right now, our DOJ, even though if you watch the video of when she was younger and literally ran on protecting people that were hurt by the kind of people that were in those files, is now protecting them. And so there's not much you can do.
Scott, did you see that? I saw an article from The Guardian this morning saying that the Orange One wants to put a 350-acre 5K troop base over in Gaza.
Yeah, maybe he can build some more casinos that he can then bankrupt. I mean, the whole thing is just such fantasy land. It's just utterly ridiculous. And if you don't like today's fantasy, don't worry. Tomorrow there'll be another one.
Yeah, Lily.
It's bizarre. Quite frankly, after 1 year and 1 month, we've run out of adjectives to describe this. We really have. We've run out of adjectives. Bizarre, sick, demented. It's can you top this from day to day to day? You just run out of adjectives. What we have is basically exactly what we knew we would get. And we talked about this in February. I remember we have an incompetent, cognitively declined president surrounding himself with the only people on earth who may be more incompetent than he is. And the results have been entirely predictable. Entirely predictable. Measles outbreaks, polio making a comeback, people starving in Africa because the pittance that we spent on U.S. aid, we decided not to spend it. For what reason? Who knows what reason? We left the World Health Organization that we founded. Why did we leave it? Has anybody even given an explanation as to why we left it? We're firing the scientists at the CDC and the medical experts. Now, there's a great idea. Can anybody explain to me why? Even a Trumper. I want a Trumper to explain what good reason we have for firing medical experts at the CDC. What possible benefit do we get from that? It's not money. We don't spend much money on it. I mean, we're cutting Medicaid by $1 trillion, so it's not any real money that we're saving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Kia. It just gets frustrating.
It really does, because I was watching, of course it was last month, but I was watching a creator and they were showing footage of J6 and then what all the different, what do we want to call them? The MAGA folks in Congress and stuff, all of the things that they were saying about that day and how the orange one should have been all these different things, and then just know that, when they had the chance to do what they were supposed to do in the Senate, if they would have done what they were supposed to have done then, we wouldn't be dealing with this now. He wouldn't be able to be president if he would have been convicted in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And now to see them all just sitting there kissing his ass, and like you were saying a little bit ago, the fact that people even thought that was a better choice to vote for just goes to show like how much work we really got to do.
Kay, if you want to talk about the road not taken, the first impeachment trial, the second impeachment trial, Joe Biden and Merrick Garland waiting 2 years to begin the investigation of Donald Trump, shamed into it by the January 6th committee, which uncovered so much malfeasance, so many indictable offenses that they were shamed into beginning an investigation of Trump that he ran out the clock on, which was entirely predictable. I mean, how many roads did we have that we didn't take, and it led to this very point that we're in now?
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden not leaving the contest after the midterms in 2022. When the Democrats outperformed, he could have gone out a hero, saying it's time to pass the torch. How many different things happened that led us to this point? People think that Trump is some 800-pound gorilla. He most assuredly is not. He won by 1.5 points against a person who could only run for 107 days because Joe Biden did what he did. And you want to go even further? Joe Biden ran in 2020 on making D.C. and Puerto Rico states. That would be 4 U.S. senators. Those 4 U.S. senators, if nothing else changed, just those 4 U.S. senators would have blocked every single cabinet appointment. There wouldn't have been a big, beautiful bill. People would still have health care. So, I mean, if you lined up every single mistake that we have made It's astronomical what brought us to this point. We had a million different ways, exit paths to get out from under this, and we didn't take one of them. And Mitch McConnell, your late in the day change of heart, fuck you. Because you could have gotten him out after January 6th. We only needed 7 more votes, and he was the Senate Majority Leader. If he'd have said that he was voting for conviction, that would have been it, and we'd be off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
So fuck him.
Yep.
All of that. All of that.
All of that.
Well, one good thing from Donald Trump. I have to say the good thing about Donald Trump. He will keep historians in business, which was a dying thing in America, or an unaliving thing in America, was an unaliving thing in America, while the entire academic study of history has been saved for the next 50 years. Because for the next 50 years, historians will be analyzing this period, saying, what the hell were we thinking?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've said this. We've said this multiple times. The ramifications and their history books will be a long time. Coming after this, like history books and the amount that we as a country are going to have to work through after all of this.
You know, Luis just pointed out in chat, in the first term, he wanted to trade Puerto Rico because they were dirty and poor for Greenland. Just think of how insane that is. If any other president at any other time had even made that suggestion, his cabinet would be meeting to invoke the 25th Amendment. But this is just another day. We're going to invade Greenland. Well, okay. Well, we really don't think you should. What do you mean we really don't think we should? That's insane. Why aren't we talking about the elephant in the room here? We have a president who is literally mentally insane. He is clinically insane. And we aren't talking about that. That's all we should be talking about. Why? Because he has his hand on the nuclear button. That's why.
What advantage would it be for us? Nothing. There's no advantage. We already can build any number of bases we want in Greenland. We have a treaty.
1951 treaty signed by President Truman. We can do whatever we want in Greenland. And by the way, the government of Denmark says the same thing. And I'll tell you what advantage we don't have if we invade Greenland. It's a member of NATO, for Christ's sake. That's the end of the NATO alliance. The most successful alliance in world history would be torn asunder by an invasion of one NATO nation into another. That's insane, folks. That's not policy. That's not a good policy, a bad policy, a policy we should discuss. No. It's clinical insanity is what it is. No sane person would say that. And yet we treat it like another day.
And yes, we used to have like 20 bases in Greenland, and we shut them down because there was no need for them.
I agree, Flamingo. The only winner there would be Vladimir Putin. It has been his lifelong dream since he was a low-level KGB agent in Leningrad in the 1970s and 60s. He dreamed of the day that he could wean the United States away from Europe and Europe away from the United States and destroy NATO. He would be the only winner here, which makes you wonder why we have a president who, against the wishes of his own party, grovels to a brutal dictator in Russia. And we have learned in the first batch of e-files that there was a nexus between Mr. Epstein and Mr. Putin.
Linus, false. NATO does not have to approve any bases that we build in someone's sovereign country. NATO does not have authority over that.
That's a 1951 treaty that we have with Denmark, the United States and Denmark, signed by President Harry S. Truman. Nice try, though.
I agree with that comment a while ago, though, that, definitely with the history books, the history books we're gonna need a new company because that shit is trash. The other thing I think that'll happen too, Scott, though, is and I've chatted with Di about this in her lives, is the whole law stuff when it comes to the fact with how many cases he's been in and how they try to get around it and over it and under it. What does bad filing of paperwork look like? There's so many different ways that they can teach from the shittiness of it all.
Linus, Denmark is not NATO. It is a part of NATO. And we don't need authorization. We need to inform them that we are building another base. And we need to obviously make sure we're not like destroying housing and things, like most normal things that you need to do when you said NATO has to approve all bases. And then you said Denmark, who is part of NATO. Them being part of NATO does not mean NATO needs to approve the base.
Linus, yes, Denmark is a part of NATO. Yes, the United States is a part of NATO, and therefore Greenland is a part of NATO. However, being a member of NATO does not abrogate any ability of two nations to have bilateral treaties. You can still have treaties with other nations, whether they are NATO nations or not. We have treaties with Great Britain. We have treaties with France that are different, and they don't need NATO approval. We have treaties with Germany that doesn't need NATO approval.
Hector, if you think the economy seems fine, then you're blind. Presidents for decades have wanted, so what? So what?
That's such a wild statement.
Presidents wanting it means nothing. No one's mad that this president wants Greenland. I don't think you get that. It's not that he wants it. No, I'm not acting like this is the first time that this has been talked about. I'm acting like this is the first time that we've threatened to frigging take it.
Okay, Linus, let me explain this to you, even though I have a strong feeling that it's not going to get through. Presidents for decades have wanted Greenland. Actually, only one other president wanted Greenland. His name was Harry Truman. He made an offer to Denmark to purchase Greenland soon after the Second World War ended. Denmark said no. That was the end of it. Truman said, okay, it's your territory. You said no. We made an offer. That was it. That was it. The difference here, the president is saying, sell it to us or we'll take it anyway. That's called an invasion.
And don't we teach children that just because you want something doesn't mean that you get to take it or that you get to have it? What a sense of that's just insane.
And again, his reason for wanting it is nonsensical because we can already put bases up there for protection of our country.
And by the way, other NATO nations can do the same to protect the Arctic. That's the whole purpose behind it. So, I mean, this is what you have allies for, and this is what you discuss. And after all, it is this Greenland is a semi-autonomous province of Denmark. So you talk with Greenland and you talk with Denmark, but if they say no to something, that's the end of the discussion.
No one's saying he can't make an offer. No one's saying he can't talk to them about it. Of course he has the right to do that. It's when he makes threats that I have an issue. Especially when he's making threats for something that is not true. When he's saying that we need to own it to be able to protect the United States when we don't.
It's just.
Hi, Patty.
But you know, the one thing, if anything, though, is that, like, last night, sitting there listening to those people, not just the one that was shrieking, like, I had to turn it down because I was like, oh my gosh, it was like causing physical discomfort. But it's just, my first thought when I hear that is, Jesus Christ, these people vote too. And it's really scary because for them to sit there and talk about these are facts, like, no. Reading a headline doesn't mean that you know facts.
They like using the word national security court because it is a vague enough statement that they think gives them the right and ability to do whatever they want. That's why they like the word national security.
Yeah, the presidents have the primary responsibility for national security, so it's a way of doing an end run around anything that would need congressional approval. They simply say national security.
Hey, Liz.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think if anything, hopefully this shit show is a huge teaching moment of so many things that we really need to work on and fix. Like changing. I was listening to something this morning. It was another live, and they were listening to some kind of program. I don't know if it was like a podcast or if it was like a what it was, but they were saying that they felt like there needs to be talks about taking the president, the whatever that little act, that whatever the act is that allows him to do tariffs during times of invasion, to take the part out about him being able to enact tariffs on his own because of how he's been doing it now and just so willy-nilly and all over the place.
I mean, it's still the idea of national security. I think that's his reasoning for the tariffs too.
That's what I just said. They said to take that part out, that just because it's a national security, that he doesn't get to touch it, that Congress has to do it, that the president, they want to take that part out of that national security part because they see what's happening. Thank you, Patty.
Silver, it wasn't just 9/11 that did it. When it comes to tariffs, especially, the tariffs during the Great Depression, before the Great Depression, it was only Congress that could do tariffs. And after what they did, they made changes to make it so it wasn't just, they basically took away some of those rights and responsibilities of tariffs from Congress because of the big screw up that they did.
Well, that was the Smoot-Hawley bill,
yep.
Which easy for me to say, exacerbated the Great Depression. So tariffs have never worked, whether they were under President Hoover or whether they were under President McKinley, which led to a depression in 1895. So they've never worked. They just don't work. But Congress did maintain a role where a president can impose tariffs. He has to have a congressional buy-in after either 30 or 90 days.
Yep.
And what the president did in this case is he used a statute called the IEEPA, which allows a president to take certain emergency measures. The problem for Mr. Trump that he's going to have with the Supreme Court is that the word tariffs are not any of the measures that he's allowed to take in that legislation. And secondly, there has to be an emergency. Well, there's no emergency, and he's using tariff power that is not even mentioned, one word of it, in the legislation that he used. So what his legal arguments are to have this constitutional is beyond me, but we'll find out because the Supreme Court has already heard the arguments. And apparently any day now, from now until June, they will be issuing their ruling on this.
I think also, though, is like, who is there to hold her accountable? Like, whose job is it? And I'm almost, and I say, and I ask this almost in a facetious, smart-ass, sarcastic way, but not really. But whose job is it to hold her accountable if she doesn't do what she's supposed to do? Are they going to do it? Who's the person that's in I don't want to say in charge of her. I hate saying that. Who is the person that would hold her accountable, Scott?
Are you referring to the Attorney General?
Yeah, it would be
Congress.
the orange one, right? Or Congress?
Congress.
Well, actually, it would be both. She answers, she serves at the will of the President of the United States, but also
Congress can impeach.
Congress can impeach just like they can any other member of the cabinet, and either the president or vice president can be impeached, as we all know. Now, what's the problem here? The problem is rather obvious. When the Democrats take over the House, should they desire to, impeachment is on the table, but impeachment doesn't mean conviction. And conviction requires 67 votes in the United States Senate. And even under the best of circumstances, the Democrats won't even be close to that.
And this is why identity politics is one of the worst things that has happened. This idea that we have to win and the others have to lose. Completely messed up everyone's ability to see right and wrong in things.
And I say, because I knew the answer, I knew it was both of them. I knew that in either way, and that's why I said I was being like kind of sarcastic and facetious about it, because that's the freaking problem. When you put this stuff in place, you write a law to get something done, but then the people who are supposed to uphold it and enforce it and all those things are not doing it. I think that's another thing that's frustrating as shit. It's like there's no freaking accountability anywhere.
Non-useful. If the president was impeached and convicted, he wouldn't have the ability to not step down. He, at that moment, would no longer be the president of the United States. So the only reason that technically there would be something else going on is if the rest of the system decided to not support the act of Congress of convicting him. But assuming everyone else follows the Constitution, everyone else, and I gotta say, if we were getting 17, 18, 19 Republicans to vote for conviction, you pretty much would be guaranteed that things would be happening. Like that would be huge.
Two things. As a practical matter, the minute, as Mike said, he is correct. The minute that he is convicted in the Senate and you have that 67 votes, the vice president automatically becomes president of the United States. And the president of the United States at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is a trespasser, and the U.S. Marshals would go to arrest him. if he tried to stay there. But as a practical matter, if you ever got to a point where you would get 67 votes for conviction, that would mean that the American people, because, senators are politicians too, that would mean that the American people have had it with Trump in a most profound way. His approval rating would be in the teens or at about 20%. There would be no blowback to them in convicting him. Otherwise, they wouldn't vote to convict in the first place. So if you ever got 67 votes, it means he's really done politically anyway.
Yep. And in the end, this is why we keep saying, but there's far too much for it to go over that smoothly. I mean, again, for it to happen, you would have to get, if it was right now, you would have to get 20 Republicans to vote for it. So to say it wouldn't go over that smoothly is actually kind of ignorant to the realities of what would be going on in this current environment. 20 Republicans voting to convict would actually cause it to go smoothly, because you wouldn't be dealing with what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, impeachment is hard and conviction is hard because it should be hard. And I'll tell you why it should be hard. What is the essence of a democracy? The essence of a democracy are elections. That is the essence of a democracy. That's why we have elections, even during a civil war, even during World War I, even during World War II. We have elections because they are the very core function of a democracy. And an impeachment and conviction is, in the final analysis, an overturning of that election. That is what it is. You are overturning the will of the people who voted for Donald Trump. So if you do that, you had better be damn sure you're doing it for right and valid reasons, and the bar should be set very high to do so. I have no problem with 67 votes being needed for conviction, because at the end of the day, you are overturning an election which is the very core of our democracy. So it should be hard to do.
Non-useful. Who do you think his goon squad would be able to protect him from? The National Guard, if it was necessary?
Look, again, if you ever reached a point where 67 votes existed in the Senate, which has never happened in American history, 67 votes existed in the Senate. It would have under Nixon, but he resigned. If 67 votes are there, that means the president has lost his political base. It's gone. It's non-existent. People would be out in pitchforks to get him out if he tried to stay.
The president would have no authority over ICE at that moment. You think ICE is going to travel from all over the country in a moment's notice, which can't happen, to do something like that? No. I think you'll see a lot of people leave ICE at that moment and try and hide, because obviously some big changes are going on. Morning, Tiffany.
Can somebody explain to me, when I'm trying to mute myself, the little box comes up, do you want to leave the live or not? It's not allowing me to mute myself.
That's been a glitch like some people have been having. You might have to drop Zeus. You might have to close the app and come back, because I've heard other people on other panels and other lives saying they were having this one lady.
It just worked this time, but then when I tried to come unmute it, the box came up. So who the hell knows?
Yeah, if it does it again, just drop and close the app out, and then when we see you back, we can bring you back up.
They went to Italy. But again, this is right now, the current president is the current president. We're talking about a hypothetical situation where Congress and the Senate impeaches and convicts him. That's a very different world. We need to remember that we're talking about a completely different world at that moment. We're talking about 20 Republican senators doing something that would be almost completely unheard of in American politics right now.
Well, it's not only unheard of in American politics, it's unheard of in American history. We've never done it. We've never convicted a president. As I said, Nixon probably would have been convicted. That's not certain, but probably would have been. But then you had a pretty large Democratic majority in the U.S. Senate, which obviously we do not have now. Look, we're long ways away from that. Right now, this is just cocktail table talk. It's the president is in no danger of being impeached and convicted.
No.
However, we don't know what may come out. The Democrats are going to take the House. The only issue is how much they win it by. And, what legislation will they pass? None. They're not going to get any legislation passed because they would have to go through the Senate and be signed by the president.
Yep.
But what they will have is something far more powerful. They will have subpoena power. They will have the gavel. They will be able to run any damn investigations they see fit. And God only knows what rocks they are going to turn over and find something slithering on out. Because that is what's going to happen. And that is Donald Trump's worst nightmare. 2 years of nonstop investigations.
And I will say this again. We always talk about how we want people to do X, Y, and Z. We want people that are willing to hold this administration, any administration, accountable, to be willing to be held accountable, to be willing to do things, to be willing to fix problems. That requires us to get out in the primaries as much as the general election. I will feel like I'm going to be saying this till the day I am no longer on this earth. 23% on average of this country takes part in primaries. Primaries is where you get people that you want. I'm literally interviewing hundreds of people that want to be held accountable, want to take money out of politics, want term limits. They want to put term limits on themselves. They want a vast majority, if not all of the things that we are constantly talking about wanting. But if the incumbents just are the only ones that get through, then what does it matter? Nothing we talk about matters if the people that want to keep the status quo keep getting voted into office. Then we still are dealing with this idea of the lesser of two evils. And I know people hate that idea. And I hate that idea. I would always love it if the person that I felt was the best for the country is the one that I had a chance to vote for. But again, if 23% or less of your district, of your state, of this country are the ones that vote in the primary, then we are getting their choice. We are getting whatever the majority of that small group of eligible voters choose. So you got to think, if 23% of your district votes, and that 23% is split between 2, 3, 4 choices, then an even smaller number is the one that's getting to choose. They're deciding who our choices are. Well, let's stop letting them decide who our freaking choices are.
That's a good point. And, it's up to us. And many of these things we keep saying, Trump, 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 Congress, Congress, Congress. Supreme Court, Supreme Court, Supreme Court. The bottom line is we're lucky if we get above 60% to bother to bestir themselves to vote in a presidential election. We get 50% who show up in a midterms. We get 25% who show up in a special election, and we get 23% to show up and vote in a primary. You want to know what, folks? The problem is us too. As Laura said in chat, we bear a hell of a lot of the responsibility for this ourselves.
And Silver, you're right. There's zero reason that we could not figure out a way to vote online. But again, the only way we will get this is if at state and federal levels, we vote in people that want these kind of things. And until we get them into office, these conversations are just going around in circles. And I appreciate the fact that we're talking about it. We need to have these conversations in the sense of we need to talk about things that we want. We need to talk about directions we want to go. But if all of this talk is not followed by voting in the primaries under the current way that it is being done, then nothing's going to change.
Court says in chat, people would show up if we had someone to vote for. We keep getting establishment candidates. I hear your complaint there, Court, but I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. That isn't the reason people aren't showing up. We have to take responsibility, and you have plenty of people to choose from in almost all primaries. Plenty of people. You're going to find someone who matches pretty darn close to your own viewpoint. And if you're not showing up to vote, that's on you. That's not on the candidates. Too often we sit there and we use euphemisms. Oh, the two parties are all the same. They're just different sides of the same coin. It's a waste of time. My vote doesn't count. Well, if you have that type of attitude, then nothing's going to change. But the problem with that type of attitude is you. You're the problem. Not meaning you, Court. I'm just talking about an average voter who thinks that way. You're the problem if you feel that way, not the candidates. Candidates are politicians, folks. They're going to do what you want them to do. And, they focus group the living hell out of everything. And if you don't like what you're hearing out of a candidate, it's because that candidate is doing what the majority says they want. And the American voter is not exactly consistent about knowing what they want and what they don't want, because too many of us are disengaged from the process to begin with.
I keep saying this. The reason our electoral system is the way it is because our politicians have learned that they can say whatever they want and they won't be held accountable for it. If they take money and say whatever they want on the campaign trail about the other person, they will get voted into office and then can pretty much do whatever they want because incumbents aren't held accountable. As long as that is the reality, because people aren't getting out and voting in primaries and holding them accountable when someone is running against them, this will continue to be the realities. Again, I understand the frustration. I understand that there's this feeling that there's a lack of choice. But I think we cannot push them into... See, this is the problem. We cannot... The only thing that would push them to quote unquote stay in line, first off, I don't like that idea, that statement, because that assumes that we all agree on what that line is. But the only thing that pushes them to stay in line is this feeling that they will not get re-elected. These protests that we do are great. These calling our representatives is great. But the actual act of calling them is not what gets them to change what they vote for or what line they fall under. What gets them to do that is this feeling that they will not be reelected.
You know, the problem is easily summarized in a statistic. Congress regularly has an approval rating of anywhere between 17 and 20%, which is abysmal. The American people despise the United States Congress. They aren't dissatisfied. They despise the United States Congress. And yet, 90+% of them are reelected every single time. So when you have that type of a divergent statistic, that tells you that a big part of the problem is ourselves, because we are not getting out and voting in the primaries for the change that we say we want, but we can't be bothered to go out and vote in a primary. Bestir yourselves, folks. Vote in the primaries.
And Court, I hear you, and yes, I think when you look at it, that is what you're saying. I'm just saying it in a different way. I think there's people find too many ways to just say it's not worth it. This idea that we can push them. This is why you got people that say they're not going to vote, or they're going to vote third party, and they make those threats because they think that those threats are going to get these people to change. And the reason that every time people threaten third party, or every time people threaten to not vote, the reason it never gets the change that we want is because it never actually, like, the reality is that it does not fix that problem. That is the reality, is those threats aren't enough.
Tottingham, you're saying the rumor is he's being set up. Could you be more explicit? Are you referring to Andrew Mountbatten, Prince Andrew? Is that who you're referring to?
He's not a prince anymore. They did what they were supposed to do. They took that title from him. He don't even deserve that word.
No,
Call him a different
no, Tottingham. He earned every bit of this arrest by his own actions. You know, he's not being set up.
How do we? They will try. They are doing. Yes, they are doing everything they can to try and disenfranchise people from voting. How do we help our neighbors? Rides, encouragement, conversation.
If you have access to a printer, yes, a printer. If you have access to a printer, maybe allowing them to print off information, maybe a sample ballot, something like that, so they can have information in their hand. That's all ways those are ways to help. Sorry, there's some giant helicopter flying over my house.
Maybe Trump is invading North Carolina now.
It's a helicopter. It's a helicopter. He was here, I think, last week or something like that? He went to Bragg. He was at Bragg sometime here recently. Because evidently, some soldiers from Bragg took part in something that happened, I think it said Venezuela, maybe? I'm not sure. But he was here at Fort Bragg. I'm like, gosh, that's so close. It's only 45 minutes for me. It's so close.
Kakalaki.
And by the way, Kia, I'm well aware that Andrew is now Andrew Mountbatten, but most people in chat would not know who Andrew Mountbatten is. That's why I use the phrase that most Americans know him as, which is Prince Andrew.
I hear you. The fact that we know what he did, and to keep giving him a title, it just for some reason.
Oh yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like
No,
digging under my-
you're
And if
absolutely
they don't,
correct.
I wouldn't even say his last name because I wouldn't know the last name. Once you say, ooh, you see Andrew, and most people know who Andrew is.
I'm not so sure that most do, but at any rate, that's why I used it. And Mountbatten was Lord Louis Mountbatten, his who actually is not They took the name Mountbatten. He's not related. He's a cousin. He's not a direct line from Lord Mountbatten.
We could call him former Prince Andrew.
The prince formerly known as Andrew?
The Andrew formerly known as Prince?
Yeah, the Andrew formerly known as Prince. Well, he's formally in trouble right now.
What did he
boy.
do? He was in the E-Files, Shug.
All over them.
Yeah, I hear you, Rosa. We were discussing that before. It appears that everywhere else in the world, which has 1/10 of the e-files problems that we have here, is taking it seriously. And we have an attorney general who keeps saying nothing to see here, folks.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same attorney general who, when she took over as attorney general, had a proud photo op. I've got the files here and I'm going to release them, until she actually read them and found out that one name was prominent in them and decided that, hey, well, nothing to see here, folks.
Mm.
You know, if we tried to have a trial with everybody in these files, then the whole system of justice would collapse. Well, that sort of indicates you've got a real problem and you better hire some more prosecutors. Maybe get those prosecutors back who quit because you're trying to cover everything up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I hate to say this, if there's that much in those files, then maybe the whole system needs to collapse. It's that corrupt. I hate to say it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a damn good point. We might as well surrender because the Japanese just sunk all our destroyers at Pearl Harbor. Well, no, that isn't the way it works.
Yep. And again, this is the thing. So we've had this discussion before about saying that things need to collapse. And I think there are different ways of things collapsing. I want to make that clear because we've had this discussion before. I think the way some people want it to collapse will create anarchy. I think there are ways that we can have it collapse that can build something stronger out of the collapse. But it involves us as a country stepping in and doing what needs to be done first and starting the building from there, as opposed to if it collapses because we don't do anything. I think those are two separate things that can go on that we need to be aware of.
The system doesn't need to collapse. We need to enforce the law. I mean, for God's sakes, folks, this isn't complicated. Oh, there might be up to 1,000 people implicated in the files. Yeah, so we can't prosecute 1,000 people. We can do it easily without breaking a sweat. The Justice Department prosecutes 155,000 people a year. So 1,000 people is going to break the system? We prosecute 155,000 people a year. And that's just the DOJ.
But Scott, we all know that these 1,000 people
Have money.
well, they're all ultra wealthy elite. They'll lawyer up from now until forever, kind of like the Orange Cheeto dude does every single solitary time. And I'm not saying that the system that would break the system. It won't. It's just going to defer things forever and ever and a day, because that's what.
Okay, that's the way the legal system works. Let's get started. Let's get the indictments rolling. That's fine. Maybe it'll be 2 years in court. Maybe it'll be 3 years in court. Maybe even 4. But there will be a court. There will be a reckoning, and the legal system will have its due.
I agree.
But simply saying that prosecuting 1,000 people is way beyond the means of a nation of 340 million people to do, that is a ridiculous argument of all the many ridiculous arguments that Pam Bondi made when she testified before Congress.
Well, it's funny because Canadians, when the files were released, there was a lot of Canadians that went through to try and see if there were prominent people in our political system or in the elite wealthy class here. And several of them have shown up in there. But all of the ones here who've shown up didn't do anything illegal. It just happened to be that they were doing their job, and there was an article clipping about them doing their job. Like, there was only one person, one political figure here who showed up in the files who actually did something that I would say is morally questionable. And that was one of our former Prime Minister, Harper, decided to allow Epstein into the country after his conviction. And that was it.
What is
Canadians-
inter- what is interesting to me is only one nation seems to be going after the Epstein-Putin connection, and that is Poland, which has launched a full-scale investigation of that.
Mhm.
I am going to be paying very close attention to what Poland comes after, and I cannot believe that the Senate Foreign Relations Committee is not opening up an investigation of that. It would be the greatest scandal in American history if a president of the United States is being blackmailed by a foreign leader. That is important stuff.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying he is. I don't have the evidence. But there is enough there that there should be a full-scale congressional. Don't wait for the goddamn courts. You don't need the courts for this. This is an issue of national security, and it should have started. Should have started that investigation 2 weeks ago when it broke that there was a connection between Epstein and Putin. What does Putin know? When did he know it? And why? It answers an awful lot of questions of Trump's actions in 2017 at Helsinki when he stood up there and incomprehensibly said that he sides with Putin over all of America's intelligence agencies. That should have been our first signal right there that he was being blackmailed.
Well, they seem more concerned about protecting the office of the presidency and its reputation. I know the irony. Than they are concerned about illegal activity, is what it appears to look like from somebody who is sitting here on the very, very much outside.
Now, to be fair, that has always been the case. It's the reason that in the grand scheme of things that Nixon resigned before getting impeached, because they didn't want the office of the presidency to be soured in such a way.
Well, they had already passed the articles of impeachment to
Sure.
go to the full House. He would have been impeached. He would have been convicted. I remember those days very well, Mike. He resigned because he was going to be convicted. That's
Right.
why he resigned. Barry Goldwater went up to the White House, and Barry Goldwater was a Republican, along with John Rhodes, and he said, "You don't have the votes.
Right.
You're going to lose."
But and maybe something did, and I this is an honest question. What did anything happen to Nixon once after he resigned?
Yes, he got pardoned by Gerald Ford. Otherwise, he would have faced criminal charges.
Right.
And he still had to testify. And he had to testify under oath because once you get a pardon, you lose your Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination because, after all, you can't be prosecuted, but you can be prosecuted for perjury if you lie. That's why, everybody talks about Maxwell. Here's the little trick I think Trump will pull after the midterms. He's going to give her a commutation. She retains her Fifth Amendment if she gets a commutation. If he gives her a pardon, she's going to have to sing. And he doesn't want her singing.
Interesting. Well, I just find it absolutely interesting that look at what Clinton got in trouble for. And here's Trump doing the most heinous things, I think, known to humanity.
Well,
And
he got in trouble for lying.
I know.
He did not technically get in trouble for what everyone remembers about
Him for. Yep.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with any relations that he may have had with Monica Lewinsky. It had everything. It's exactly right. He lied under oath. And presidents can't lie under oath. Although, this president certainly has put the lie to that one. And by the way, you know, we're talking about Richard Nixon. That's a subject I know a lot about. And Richard Nixon is literally Mother Teresa compared to
Sure.
this guy. I mean, there is just the Watergate affair is a pimple compared to Mount Everest
Sure.
of the amount of malfeasance that this president has committed in both his first and second terms.
100%. 100%. You actually look at the stuff that man supported during his time as president. He actually supported some pretty good things for this country. He just did something really bad too. And he
And he
paid.
didn't profit by it one bit. He was covering up for his friends.
Yep.
That doesn't excuse what he did. He got what was coming to him. Don't misread me. You know, breaking into Ellsberg's office, stuff like that, the plumbers, that also is part of Watergate, and that was reprehensible. But we were also, it was wartime. The country was divided in two. It was a different country then than we have now. And we also had a Congress that did its job.
Yeah. And I understand it. I mean, there, again, this to an extent, this comes back to the idea of American exceptionalism that has radiated through this country for a long, long, long time, where you look at a lot of things that we as an overall population, obviously I'm not going to not say that everyone is like it, but we as an overall population have been very willing to ignore things that our representatives have done for fear of quote unquote looking bad. We have done a very poor job as a whole at that throughout the years. The fact that we know that politicians lie and yet somehow we are willing to believe them. The fact that we know that the wealthy, that we've been talking about this whole money in politics thing, and yet we pretty consistently allow money in politics to sway what we do constantly. Like we are unwilling as a whole to see our own hypocrisy. And this is coming from someone who was a part of it and it willingly admits that they were a part of it.
The one thing that I would mildly disagree with you on, we know our politicians lie. The difference, I don't think it's, well, we want to believe them. No, we know our politicians lie and we don't care about that anymore. And that, I think, is much worse. And that's where we are now.
That's fair.
Trump supporters know full well he's a liar. To them, it's a feature, not a bug.
Yep. And prison, that's why I said, I'm talking about as a whole. Again, this is one of those, if it's not you, I'm not talking about you. But the fact is we as a country voted this president in knowing what he did. There's a lot of us that care. I care. Everyone in this panel cares. Most of the people that are watching right now care. But what we need is a majority of the people in this country to care. And right now, a majority of the people in this country, well, maybe a majority do now, I don't know. But at least when it comes to voting, a majority of this country don't care. Not enough to vote. Not enough to vote that way. Or vote at all.
The thing that bothers me the most of the last 10 years, Mike, more than any policy, more than ICE, more than even his mishandling of the pandemic, the thing that bothers me the most is that we no longer hold our presidents and high officials to any sense of common decency or morality. And that is the greatest change I've seen in my 69 years of living in this country. I remember when Clinton lied under oath, and I was in favor of impeaching him for that. Can you imagine how trivial it was? And yet I said, presidents can't lie. They just can't. We cannot allow that to happen. It begins a downward slope.
Mhm.
And I wasn't necessarily in favor of conviction. I was in favor of impeaching him so that it would go in the record that this was not okay. So I didn't blame Newt Gingrich for what he did, even though I knew it was nakedly political. But what we have now is a man who is a moral disgrace in every way that a person can be a moral disgrace, whether you're talking about his serial infidelity, his business, total lack of business ethics. This is all before he became president. We elected him in 2016. Well, the people didn't know. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yeah, the tape that came out 2 weeks before the election, grab him by the you-know-what. Yeah, they knew exactly who Donald Trump was. They knew exactly who they was, and they voted for him anyway.
Mhm.
And it is the degradation of an overall sense of morality and accountability that I find the most distressing, not among us here on this panel or in the chat. I'm talking about so many of our fellow Americans who do not hold a president of the United States to even basic standards of human decency. I never thought I'd live to see that.
Hold a majority of our politicians to that. But yes, obviously the president is the most blatant example of that reality. But we in general don't hold any of our politicians to any level of true accountability. And it's shown by the fact that you will end up voting for someone because of a letter next to their name, regardless of what kind of a person they are. And that's in all all positions and all elections, whether primaries or general elections. Wake up, people.
I think we've, but this country has a long history of not holding people accountable.
Sure.
Look what happened after the Civil War. Nothing.
Mhm.
People just got to go back home and everything was the same. Like they were not held accountable for the fact they actually fucking bred and sold people, human fucking beings.
Exactly.
They've never been held accountable. And it just, I think for me, that's one of the most frustrating things. And in each year, and the more that happens, the more and more fucking frustrated I get. Between what was happening with the police unaliving all those black men, what happened to Colin Kaepernick, what happened to my cousin, what happened to all those people that were just unalived and like nothing changed, all the kids that were unalived and they just can't get over themselves to pass fucking decent legislation reform. Here they are tearing and ripping apart freaking civil rights all the way around and stuff. And then I think it kind of, that's one of the things that frustrates me when I hear people talking about, well, the Democrats need to stop talking about other crap that they've been talking about. Well, when that other crap has to do with people's existence and their civil rights and their fair rights, I think that's a pretty shitty thing to say. I don't care if you voted blue your entire life.
Mhm.
Period. Like it is so frustrating. And that adds on to this whole thing to me. Again, this is part of it literally makes me want to pound my head is why, when white men have been the ones that have been at the head of all of that through all of the eternity of this country, are we still looking for a white man to come in and save us? I don't understand. I'm so frustrated. I find it harder and harder every day to not just lose my shit, because it's like we shouldn't even, the fact that we're here period is fucking ridiculous. But it just drives me insane that for so long, and it starts at home when people are kids, we have to teach our kids accountability. We have to teach our kids that there when you do something that there's going to be something that's going to happen in response. And I mean, I just
Consequences.
it's just fucking frustrating because One of the things, I don't think people, the other part, what are we showing our young people? What are we showing every single victim of SA ever, whether you be man, woman, girl, boy, grown adult, little kid, or what? What are we showing them? That what we went through doesn't fucking matter, that they don't fucking care. As long as they still get to vote and they can do all of the things, they can run shit the way they want to, make all this backhanded money, they don't care. But then people still vote for them. I'm so frustrated.
Yep.
This is not new, and it's just, I think it's just for us, it's what the reason it's different is we've got social media, we've got multi 24-hour news cycle TV shows that constantly shove it down your throat. So it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm at the point, like I'm at the verge where I feel like I'm gonna scream. And when I say that, I mean that from the very depths of my soul. I am so frustrated with this country, and I am frustrated with how long it took so many people to wake the fuck up and see what we've been, people who look like me, what women have been saying for so long, and it's taken this to happen. And it's like, how much more do we need to see them taking away SNAP and healthcare and ripping all these freaking immigrants and snatching them up and doing all these things? They do not care.
Dancer mom voting absolutely matters. Stop pushing the apathy.
All of that, Kia. It's ingrained in the fabric of the creation of both of our countries, Canada and America, albeit they've gone in slightly different directions to some degree in some aspects. It is woven into the fabric that of the creation of these countries. It's like, it makes me so frustrated to see people unwilling to look at history books and realize that this has been the way things have been always. It's not new. This isn't new. None of it's new. Like everything Kia said was absolutely the truth. People really need to, I think the most important thing people need to do is go back and start reading history books, and history books that were probably printed longer than 50 years ago, because I'm not sure how accurate those are or how much they haven't been skewed to have us learn history in a specific perspective. That's how I'll PC put it. Because none of this is new. None of anything that's going on, basically in most parts of the world, is new. It's just regurgitated history, us repeating the same dang patterns over and over and over again, and nothing ever changing. And I don't know what the answer is to get change, but voting for the same people, or making it so that it's cost prohibitive for the general public to even run for government office. At least that is the case in Canada. It is extremely expensive if you want to run a campaign. Like, I wanted to run and I looked and I'm like, yep, I don't got that money, and I don't know if I could raise that kind of money. I don't even know if I know enough people who would give money for me to even sign up for an application. So we're losing people who actually would genuinely want to do stuff to make changes to actually help society move forward, because we're making it so that only those who are influential, wealthy, and have good connections, funny, those things have always been what has driven society, get to make all the decisions still. They've just allowed us the illusion that we can make change. But if they make it cost prohibitive for anybody to actually go and try to help and make change, then the system needs to be changed.
Yep. And again, I understand that it's by design, and I understand, like Kat said, that the wealthy have up until this point not been held accountable. The question is, what are you and me and everyone else in this country that sees that it's a problem willing to not only do, but be willing to go through to get the changes that we keep saying that we want? That's what it comes down to. So again, we know in this country, we keep saying that it costs a lot of money to, like it costs tons and tons and tons and tons of money to win an election. And yes, up until this point especially, we have seen how much money is spent in some of these elections. But in the same respect, if we all did even a modicum of work about paying attention to who was running in our primaries and we voted in our primaries, there's a lot of people that are running that are trying to do everything grassroots and running on budgets and not spending, not taking PAC money and not doing it. And again, I know the frustration. I know there's a part of every one of us that goes, what's the point? There is a fear of apathy. There's that feeling inside of us that pushes against that reality, because we've seen people try and we've seen it not work. So the question comes, at what point are each one of us going to ignore the fact that it hasn't worked in the past and say we are going to do what we need to make it work now? And again, I understand that people aren't angry enough. I understand that there are still a lot of people that don't feel that the danger of what's happening right now is greater than the potential ramifications and uncomfortableness and loss of funds or whatever they fear might be the outcome of doing the opposite. But we still need to be having those conversations. We still need to be doing it. We still need to be showing and pushing for what we want. And we need to stop pushing this idea of apathy around our every aspect of society. We need to be realistic. We need to say, this is the problem that we're dealing with. But we still spend too much time focusing on and talking. And this is why I hate debates, because debates don't actually talk about fixing things. We need to talk about every problem that's happened. Everything Kia said is 100% true. And we need to talk about it. We need to accept it. We need to actually, every one of us needs to take that in and work through that within ourselves. But if it ends at Kia making that statement and us going yes, then everything she just said doesn't mean anything in the long run. Because if we accept the fact that this has been a problem since the beginning, but none of us are actually willing to do anything farther than that, then you know what's going to still be a problem in the future? Everything that we just talked about. There is not going to, as like we were talking about in if we watched my my interview with Megan again, there is not going to be a Katniss Everdeen that is going to come out and run for office and fix all of the problems. AOC is not going to fix all of our problems. Bernie Sanders is not going to fix all of our problems. No one else is going to come out and run for president and fix all of our problems. We need to accept that. That's why we need to talk about the problems to try and wake people up, but we also need to be willing to step out and do something about it. And the easiest thing that we can do as a country is vote in the primaries. And again, I understand there's a lot of places that are not making it easy. But if you want change, I guarantee you, especially this year, and I want to say this year, this election cycle, more than probably any election cycle I have been a part of, has more people that I would consider progressive within the context of American politics that want to get rid of money in politics, that want things like term limits, that want to be held accountable, that don't want to make this a career, that see problems. That's one of the reasons I think it's amazing how many veterans are running. Are we going to step up? There's talk, there's reporting going on about in so many districts where AIPAC is throwing money in new ways than they were before to try and push their people through. Are we going to let it happen? Are we going to let this continue? That every one of you is the only ones that can answer that question for yourself. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to say? How much inconvenience are you willing to go through to get the kind of change we say needs to happen? So is it something that needs to happen, or is it something that we want to happen? Because our response will always be different, depending on what we actually believe at that moment. And I can't answer that for anyone other than myself. There's a reason that I am interviewing 5 people a day and pretty much working nonstop every single day to get interviews of progressives that we need to win. It's not because it's good for me or my health or my family. It's because it needs to happen. I'm definitely not becoming rich off of this. I'm going to get off, I'm going to get some lunch, and I'm going to be in 5 interviews after this. I'm going to be in interviews until 8 o'clock tonight. And every break that I have, I'm going to be working on editing videos that are going to have to be posted tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and every single frickin' day for who knows how long this is going to go for. That is what I have the capability of doing. That is what I have the capability of doing. So I'm doing it because it needs to happen. Because I can't sit here and just keep talking about what needs to happen without trying to do something. Who am I interviewing? Interviewing progressive candidates that are running in state and federal elections. As many as are willing to talk with me. We're literally reaching out to hundreds of them. Ash actually said when we were talking, she said, at some point I need to take a screenshot of your calendar because I don't think people realize how busy you are. So when I ask you guys to watch, please watch. Just please watch. And share. Share with people that aren't in the state. Share with people that are in the state. You never know what's going to click for somebody. You never know what's going to click for somebody. These are some of the most amazing people you will interact with. Running for office is not easy. They see a need. They're stepping out to do something that I would never do. So the least I can do is help give them a chance. I know this went into a weird direction, but I have never felt... I've been constantly talking about the need for progressives, for primary, for people to run, for people to vote in primaries. I've never felt it more than I do now. because we've got a chance unlike any other to get change in the way that we want, that way we've been screaming about. But it's going to take all of us. And again, obviously, I want to be able to keep doing this for the rest of my life, at least as long as I can. So yes, I wouldn't mind being able to pay my bills with what I'm doing. But in the grand scheme of things, I want these videos watched because that is how these people get visibility in their districts. This is how people get name recognition in their districts. This is how it happens. Because the regular media is not going to reach out. We were talking about the guy in Illinois. We were talking about the guy in Illinois who's running for Senate, who the people that lived in Illinois had never even heard his name. I guarantee that person wanted to do everything they wanted. Now, could one of the people who's got name recognition be doing the same thing? Possibly. But the fact that there is someone who is progressive, who is grassroots, that people who believe what we say we believe, that doesn't know that that person was even running, that's not okay. That's not okay. We need to fix that. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for letting me vent at the end. Understand that I appreciate absolutely every single one of you. For those of you that come in and watch and get involved in this every single day, it means more to me than you know, especially on TikTok, where my numbers have gone from the tens of thousands or more views to the, few hundreds, because that is what is happening to people who are making content like this and aren't willing to do rage baiting, especially. For everyone that came up, Scott, Kia, Tiffany, I always appreciate you guys coming up and appreciate your perspectives every single time. For everyone who comments all the time, I appreciate your perspectives too. Even if we disagree, I appreciate your perspectives. Reminder that tomorrow I will be interviewing live, so at the 10 o'clock hour, someone who's running for Congress, who's doing exactly what we want done. She's an amazing person. If you haven't watched the video with the interview, her name's Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs. She's running in Virginia's 1st. Go check her out. If you know anyone in Virginia, let them know about this. I'm going to be posting about it in a little bit later today. I posted about it earlier, but I'm going to post about it again because it's tomorrow. The more people we can get there, the better it will be. So, all right, guys. And please go over to the tube and follow on the tube. We're 100 away, 99 away from 2,000 subscribers over there. I would appreciate that if you're not subscribing over there. The more people that subscribe over there, the more chance that it has from being seen by more people too. So,
Oh, yeah, I didn't tell you real quick. You were actually, when I went to my home screen on YouTube today, even though your live didn't your live popped up as a something by YouTube. Like
mhm.
you were actually and I've never seen that. I usually have to go looking for you. You actually had a little thing by your name by YouTube. As you were suggested to me by YouTube.
Heck
And
yeah.
that's the first time it's ever happened. So heck yeah.
All right, guys. Have an amazing rest of your day. If you're somewhere that's going to be warm, go enjoy the warmth. Like I said, I'll see you guys all tomorrow. You're going to meet an amazing person. Please do not miss it. And yeah, you guys are amazing just the way you are. And I love you all very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Remember to sing, laugh, dance, smile, do something that makes you happy. Bye, guys. Bye, guys. Thank you. I appreciate all of you over that are watching over on the tube. I appreciate you. Have a great day, guys. Love you.